Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. For those that know the drill, go ahead and fast forward to about the minute marker, maybe just a little bit past, and we'll keep the ball rolling. If you're seeing me for the first time, I just wanted to say hello. My name is Nick Kleitch. I am the creator of the Life with Nick YouTube channel and the host of the Life with Nick podcast. Thank you so much for checking me out. Just to be mindful of my time and yours as well too. You're probably seeing me for the first time, wondering what the heck I'm all about. I would really encourage you to go to my channel, check out my introduction page, and from there get an idea of if I'm for you or not. That's going to really provide you an understanding of what I'm trying to build, how I'm operating my channel, what my channel is all about, and essentially give you the kind of determination if I am for you or not. And if I am, would love for you to join the community. If I'm not, I appreciate you checking me out, and best of luck to you moving forward. Hopefully our paths cross in the future. For those, though, that do know kind of what's going on, we are back into our continued book read on Emotional Agility by Susan David. And we just concluded the coaching concept that is called the unreliable narrator. And so if that's something that is intriguing to you, if you're just seeing this for the first time, I'd encourage you to go to that prior video on the book playlist. But for those that know what we're talking about and are ready to continue learning on this specific topic, really what we did is we laid a cinder block of foundation there and said, hey, this is a thing that we possess. This is a thing that essentially fucks with us a little bit. This is a thing that kind of causes harm in our life, can be positive, but oftentimes it's unreliable, as the name kind of insinuates. But from there, we are now going to dive into directly the formula and the process of getting emotionally hooked. So, as I just stated, we were introduced to emotional agility. We were then introduced to the unreliable narrator. Now we're getting into the process of getting emotionally hooked. And the author has really given a formula in the book. And if you don't have the book, totally fine. You can use me and trust me with delivering, kind of the core messages. But this is one I'd strongly encourage you to go out and read, because there's just so many good kind of formulas and nuances in the book. So here is the formula. So first is what I had determined, and building off of the formula she provided, is listening to our internal chatterbox. So we have that, as we had mentioned. Obviously, it's nonstop, never ending, always spewing things, thoughts, comments, observations about us engaging in the world. The first step is when we pay attention to various thoughts, comments, observations that pop up. So when we begin to listen and understand occasionally what is going on with us, let's say you go into a meeting with your coworkers, you're meeting with a client, things go pretty well, but then kind of ends on a sour note, and you're listening to your internal chatterbox saying, gosh, you should have been more prepared, or you should have said this or said that. That's that beginning stage of listening to the ongoingness that is going on. I would also mention that we're more inclined to listen to this when we run into failure or self-defeating thoughts or things that just don't serve us well, because of that emotional attachment, which we learned a little bit in the prior video. That kind of amplifies things, and that's what really gets us down this really negative, slippery slope of being hooked on negative emotions. So step one is being aware that this is going on, but furthermore, listening to things that don't serve us in particular. So a wonderful analogy that I wish I would have come up with, but I think is just a wonderful way to frame this kind of first piece, is think about the ocean. The waves are constantly coming in and constantly coming out, right? The waves never stop. It's the ocean. It's always going to do that. That's our internal chatterbox, this constant coming in and coming out, coming in and coming out. When we get hooked, and if we don't have the skills to understand that we are hooked, we are going to ride or surf all the waves that don't necessarily serve us, that get us into this heightened state of this negative slide, okay? So the skill, in this case, to get better at listening to the things that serve us well is understanding the thoughts that serve us. Okay, that's the trainable portion of using this book to get better in your life on understanding what thoughts not only serve you, but also which ones to pay attention to and not. Now, to spin this analogy, most of the time we're not good at this, so we're surfing thoughts in this case, or waves that don't serve us well, that get us hooked. So we're just kind of randomly surfing. Sometimes they're good, most of the time they're bad, but we can't stop the fact that the ocean is going to be flowing. We have to know that we're going to surf some bad. We're maybe going to surf some good. We want to try to learn how to surf more good than bad and let the bad kind of flow back into the ocean. So the reason I love that so much is because it really kind of pulls together not only the idea of the internal chatterbox with the ocean flow, but how we can begin to overcome getting hooked. For the sake of this coaching concept, though, we're talking about how the process of getting hooked does take us on. So essentially, most of us, because we've never been trained to surf on the thoughts that is the ocean in this particular analogy, we are surfing a lot of negative and not self-help, self-perpetuating, self-guiding thoughts. From there, this is the second part of the formula, and it's called thought blending. So just as a quick breakdown from the book, essentially thought blending comes from a concept called categorizing. And what categorizing is essentially what we as humans do when we go through experiences. So take, for example, your favorite restaurant. I do enjoy going to Jimmy John's. And so because I know that when I go there and order my specific order of food, I can rely on that being a solid option, okay? So I get hungry, and Jimmy John's pops into my brain, and it's categorized as a positive experience to get the number 2 is what I personally like. And so what that is if we're taking in the context and broadening out, these are things that are both good and both bad. We've all categorized cars we drive, houses we want, clothes we wear. All this stuff is just kind of categorized in our mind, and we access it when we're trying to make decisions. And so to combine both of the two things that we were talking about, hopefully this drives the point together. So we have the waves that are constantly coming in. We're very bad, or some of us aren't as bad as others at riding or surfing these negative thoughts. Well, within that thought that we take and we're surfing, we then find a categorized place or thought blending of what else is associated with that particular thing. So let's say we break up with a girlfriend or boyfriend, and 6 months go by, we still haven't kind of fully got over things, and there are certain elements of that individual that, we're missing on them, right? We're going through a tough day, we miss them, and we're riding one of these thoughts of missing them. Well, one thing is that, you just miss the way that they treated you in a particular light. Or on the negative side, if you broke up with them, let's say, or they had a behavior that you didn't like, that kind of takes you into that thought blending category, right? So not only do we have to entertain it to ride it, correct? But then from there, we begin to associate either good or bad things with that. If we're talking negative things, then this is immediately going to go into, all right, we're surfing this wave of thought that's negative. Now we're finding categories and thought blending of things that go along with this that are negative. So hopefully we really drove the point home there on the second stage. Okay. Then the last one is called the emotional punch. Okay. So this is the cherry on top, and when our prior combination that we are going through connects with the power of emotion, this is what really latches into us to being hooked, okay? So think of emotions as special effects within our favorite movies and shows, right? That's what they put in there, so that way we're at the edge of our seat, just really dialed into wanting to finish this up. In reality, as stated in the first video, or maybe the second one, unfortunately, when we get hooked in real life, it isn't as self-serving as other things are. And so emotions are the special effects of our life, and sometimes they serve us really well and create wonderful moments, but oftentimes they serve us poorly and create kind of these moments of being hooked, essentially. So to really just pull it all together, we have the waves coming in and coming out, right? From there, we are not very good at riding the appropriate thoughts, which are waves. So we ride them negatively more often than not, and then associating that with a category or a thought blend of negative things. And through all of that, we get this emotional punch that comes in and really delivers emotions that are associated with those memories and experiences. So this sounds like a lot, but we work through this so rapidly throughout our day where more powerful experiences, whether positive or negative, allow us to be hooked for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, a day. Tragic life events that really put a print in us, we're going to remember that much more vividly and have much stronger emotional attachments to that than, let's say, getting your order of your coffee wrong. Now, to kind of take a step back with this, now that we have the formula kind of laid out, the skill set needed to overcome this getting hooked process is what we'll talk about a little bit later in the book. But in the short term here, how well are we able to understand when a magnitude of a certain thing that happens to us that's negative is how severe that really is, right? Really good, successful people have an ability to say, even though this small thing that happened to me, I'm going to move on pretty quick. Or even if it's somewhat major, how quickly you respond from a failure or things not going your way. Okay, that's just a small kind of sidebar. I don't want to spend too much time in this coaching concept video discussing that because we'll get to other strategies to help with this, but it's just a good way to kind of associate with the formula that we're talking about here. Okay, so just as a real quick way to kind of conclude and summarize, so the final product of the process of getting hooked, we have internal chatterbox, waves coming in, coming out, our inability to ride these waves well, with thought blending and categories from our past, topped off with the emotional punch. And in all of that, we are latched on for anywhere from 1 minute to an hour to a whole day. So to kind of take a step back here on just concluding this particular video. So the whole day we're working through, like, we're presently doing something and then our mind wanders to do something else. We're presently doing something, our mind wanders to go do something else. So all of this is going on. And the reason I share this book and share this clip or concept with you is we want to know when we're working through the process of being hooked. The more we know when we're hooked, the better we're going to be at being emotionally agile to be more present in our day. So instead of, let's say, at 9 a.m., if you're really bad with this and you had some issues kind of pop up or you kind of have been attracting bad things into your life, you can be emotionally hooked for like half of your day, let's say. You're just incessantly thinking about these things in a way that's just like not serving you well. Or you have this ability or skill that we can work on through this is that, hey, you can catch yourself a lot more time. So then that way you can unhook yourself to be more present in your day to live a more fulfilling life. So that's kind of the spectrum and the skill sets that we'll explore later. But I just wanted to kind of put that in here because I think it's really, really important to kind of think about, all right, we're presently doing something, we're drifting into thought. We're presently doing something, we're drifting into thought. After drifting into thought, we have a categorization, and then with that, an emotional punch, and we're just totally hooked for however long. So the concluding point here that I think is really wonderful, something to keep in mind, is a quote from the author, and I think this was like something so good. So if you don't take anything away from this will be like kind of a really good value add at the end. And the question is, through the quote, is who is in charge, the thinker or the thought? So I just want to kind of understand that we're both, right? We are the thinker of our thoughts, but we also can lose sight of the power that we have to be the thinker, to just being berated by thoughts. So one end of the spectrum is you're totally unaware that you're the thinker and you're just consumed by your thoughts and your emotions as you go through the day. The other side of the spectrum says, I know that I'm in charge of my thoughts. I know that I can train my ability to ride the more positive waves of thoughts that come in, and I can dismiss or allow the negative waves to flow back into the ocean. So that's the spectrum of skills we're trying to obtain when thinking about being hooked and having emotional agility. And then the last point here, and I know that I've said the last point a lot, so thank you for bearing with me. Are we managing our own lives according to our own values and what's important to us, or are we just on autopilot getting hooked by our thoughts as we go through our days, our weeks, our months, and our year? when we're not in charge, right? That's when things don't go to the way that we want them to go. And that's when we're not the best version of ourselves. So this has been an awesome coaching concept for me. I hope this provided value to you. Again, we're slowly building now as the book and the coaching concepts are coming out, because we're understanding what emotional agility is. We have heard and understand what an unreliable narrator we have. Now we've dived into the process of getting hooked. And then we're going to move into the next video, which is these kind of 4 categories of how these kind of hooks fall into, and that'll be a little bit more clear in our next video. So thank you so much for paying attention to this and being in this coaching concept with me, and let's get to the next one. Thanks guys and girls, appreciate it.